Before the lights came on, the tension was already written into the room. Not loud, not hostile, just sharp enough to feel like something was waiting to snap. Denzel Washington sat quietly in his chair, back straight, eyes calm. The audience didn't know what was coming, but the producers did. They had changed the talking points less than an hour before the show, and Denzel had noticed. Joy Behar opened the segment with a smile too wide to feel real. Denzel Washington, welcome back. We're just so honored to have a voice of wisdom in times like these. Denzel nodded once. Appreciate that. Depends what kind of wisdom you're looking for. Joy chuckled. Well, let's start with something light. You've said before you're not political. But how do you justify staying quiet when democracy is under attack? The room shifted. Not because of the question, because everyone knew that wasn't what they had agreed to. Denzel didn't flinch. So we're skipping the movie and jumping straight to the sermon? That line didn't land with laughter. It landed with weight. Because the real conversation had just started, and no one at the table was ready for what was coming next. Joy Behar didn't back off. She leaned in, her tone sharpened. We're just asking the questions people care about. Don't you think it's dangerous for public figures to stay silent in times like these? Denzel Washington turned his head slowly toward her. I don't stay silent. I just don't shout to be seen. Whoopi Goldberg tried to smooth the edges. Denzel, we know you care. We've all seen your interviews. But silence is powerful, and sometimes people confuse it for complicity. Denzel's voice was low, steady. If they confuse it, it's because people like you tell them how to hear it. That silence came again. Not tension, exposure. Joy raised an eyebrow. So now it's our fault how people interpret your silence. Denzel didn't blink. No. But when your whole show is built on reaction, don't act surprised when people forget how to reflect. The crowd didn't clap. They weren't sure if they were allowed to. And that was the moment the control started to shift, not in volume, but in truth. Sonny Hostin stepped in, trying to defuse. We're not here to attack you, Denzel. We're just saying your voice matters. People listen when you speak. Denzel nodded once. Then I better make sure what I say doesn't just feed the noise. Joy Behar shook her head. That's a convenient excuse. Saying nothing so you don't get blamed for the fallout. Denzel turned toward her, measured. I say plenty, just not in sound bites. The room stilled. Whoopi's tone dropped, almost pleading. Then say it now. What are you holding back? Denzel looked around the table, then out at the audience. I'm holding back the part where I tell you this show isn't about truth. It's about ratings. And I'm tired of pretending it's anything else. The words didn't shout. They didn't need to, because the crowd heard them like thunder. And the hosts had nothing ready to answer that kind of honesty. Joy Behar's voice came back sharper now. You're sitting at our table, Denzel. You don't have to agree with us, but don't come in here and act like we're frauds. Denzel didn't flinch. Then stop acting like disagreement is disrespect. You don't want conversation. You want confirmation. Whoopi Goldberg looked down for a moment, then up. That's not fair. It's accurate, Denzel replied. This table isn't where opinions meet. It's where dissent gets dressed up as danger. Sonny Hostin tried again. So what, Denzel? You think we're corrupt? Denzel's voice didn't rise. I think you've been in the echo chamber so long. You forgot what truth without applause sounds like. The silence that followed wasn't stunned. It was still, heavy, like a stage losing its script in real time. And for the first time that morning, even the audience stopped looking for a punchline. Because they could tell, the mask had slipped. Joy Behar leaned back in her chair, arms folded. You think you're the only one who sees clearly? That we're all just puppets playing along? Denzel Washington stayed still. I think some people confuse their platform with their purpose. Whoopi Goldberg spoke quietly. And what's your purpose, Denzel? To come on here and lecture us? Denzel didn't blink. To remind people that real conversations don't come with applause signs. A few audience members shifted in their seats. One lowered their phone. Another looked toward the floor. Because what Denzel said wasn't cruel. It was just true. Sonny Hostin spoke again, this time softer. But don't you see what you're doing? You're using this moment to make us the story. Denzel nodded. That's because the story never changes unless someone breaks the pattern. Joy scoffed. So now you're here to save us. Denzel's tone never changed. No, I'm just done playing along. And just like that, the audience understood something the table hadn't yet. Denzel Washington hadn't come here to be polite. He had come to pull the curtain back. The silence around the table wasn't defensive anymore. It was exposed, like a moment that had gone too far to be wrapped up in commercial break banter. Whoopi Goldberg leaned in, voice low. You say you want truth, Denzel. Then tell it. What exactly do you think we're getting wrong? Denzel didn't hesitate. You call it dialogue, but you build it like a trial. You bring guests in and hope they either crack or conform. And when they don't, you turn disagreement into danger. Joy Behar's face tightened. That's unfair. Denzel kept going. Is it? Or is it just unfamiliar? He turned toward the audience again. This isn't about sides. It's about space. And the moment someone brings a different kind of stillness to this table, it gets treated like violence. The air in the room changed again. Slower now. Not tense, just real. Sunny Hostin didn't speak. She didn't need to. Because even she knew what Denzel was describing wasn't about politics or policy. It was about performance. And he had just refused the role. Joy Behar stood up from her seat, clearly rattled now. You know what, Denzel? If you think we're so fake, why even come on this show? Denzel looked up at her, still seated. Because sometimes the only way to tell the truth is to walk into the noise and say it anyway. Whoopi Goldberg sighed. And you think this is how truth works? Corner people, shame them on air. Denzel finally stood. But not in anger. He stood the way a man does when the conversation is no longer worth finishing. I didn't come here to corner anyone, he said. I came here because I believe there might still be space for honesty. But I was wrong. The room froze. No laughter. No follow-up. No spin. Just stillness. He turned to the crowd. Don't let the stage fool you. What looks like balance isn't always justice. And what feels like tension is sometimes just truth, refusing to sit down. The audience was silent. Because in that moment, the show wasn't in control anymore. The truth was, Denzel Washington stepped back from the table, not rushing, not dramatic. Just certain. The kind of certainty that doesn't ask for applause and doesn't care if it comes. The producers behind the cameras didn't know whether to cut to break or keep rolling. The teleprompter had stopped. The hosts weren't looking at it anyway. Joy Behar stood motionless, arms still crossed, lips pressed tight. She had nothing left to say. Whoopi finally spoke, softly. Denzel, if you walk out now, this becomes the story. Denzel looked at her. Not unkind. Just clear. It already is. He turned once more to the audience. You don't need permission to think for yourselves. You don't need this table to tell you what's real. And you sure as hell don't need a panel of polished opinions to know when someone's not being straight with you. Then, without another word, he walked off the set. The camera followed him for just a second before cutting to black. And across the country, people didn't reach for the remote. They just sat there, replaying what they had just seen. Not because it was loud, but because it was the one thing they didn't expect from daytime television. It was real,